Hello, welcome. I'm going to show you how to make cheese and onion triangles. So I have a piece of paper here. I recommend that you print out the recipe that I've put onto Microsoft Teams for you. This is really easy to follow and it's all step by step for you. The ingredients are at the top, little hints and tips and things like that for you to follow. So, welcome to my kitchen. Virtual Mr. Stannett here. Feel free to use this video. You can watch and pause as you cook along with me, or you can just watch the video and then use the recipe sheet when you're in the kitchen. Entirely up to you. All of these recipes are designed to teach you various skills, so there is a reason for doing it. You will find on the next page some of the skills that you will learn today. So for example, weighing and measuring, grating. I'm going to teach you the proper way how to chop an onion. You might think I know how to chop an onion, but there is a certain way that's supposed to be the best. So by cooking these things, you're going to learn some skills. That's the idea. Plus, it's a good thing to learn how to cook for yourself and cook for others. I'm sure everyone will love you for cooking all these nice things. So this week it's cheese and onion triangles. I thought we'd start off nice and simple. So first things first, if we have a look at my ingredients, I have some cheddar cheese that I've grated. I have one of these that you can grate and it catches it in the bottom. You don't need quite as much as this. I was a little bit excited with the cheese there. I think 50 grams, that's more like 80, nearly 100, so I've got a bit extra. But there we go, cheese. You'll need a small onion, so I have a small onion and a knife here ready to go. You're going to need some plain flour, so here is some flour. It's 100 grams, and that is plain flour, not self-raising, just plain flour. So there we go, plain flour. You'll need some butter, so I've chopped that onto a plate and I've weighed it, so that is 50 grams of butter there. Leave it to warm up for a few minutes before you use this. If it's cold out of the fridge, it becomes quite difficult to work. And you also want some cold water as well. So I've got a little jug here with some cold water. The egg comes in towards the end, so we won't worry about that just yet. So, first things first, preheat your oven. So I've put my oven on already, so I'll just show you. So first thing you need to do, pop your oven on, put it on for about 180 degrees, something like that. If you go a little bit lower, that's fine. But if you go too hot, you think, oh, I want to cook it quickly, 220 or something, it'll burn, all right? It's better to go colder and then increase the temperature if you need to, rather than start off really hot. If you've got an Arga, or you're cooking with gas, there are some instructions on the sheet. I'll just have a look. I believe you want gas mark 4 for this. So, follow along with your recipe guide. Number 1, it says prepare the cheese and onion filling. So, grate the cheese. I've done that, being careful with my fingers using the grater. Slice the onion. So here's the onion. You only need half of the onion. So, be careful with this. You will need a sharp knife, so a little bit of adult supervision is recommended. Keep the tufty bit, so hold on to the tufty bit, that's my first advice. And what I tend to do is I cut straight down like this. Now you hear this thing called the claw grip, so this is where you put your fingers like a sort of claw, if you like, on one side, and you're just making sure that they're well away from where the knife is going, and I'm always cutting down onto the chopping board. I'm not cutting sideways or towards me, it's always going straight down. That's the safest, best way of doing it. So take my onion, cut it in two like that. We only want 2 bits, so I'm going to get rid of one. There we go. Try and take off some of the skin so that you have removed a bit. There we go. If it's difficult, take away just a little edge, just so that you can get your fingernail there and try and pull it away. We're trying to keep the tufty bit, that's what we're trying to do. And there's a reason for that. There we go. So that little tuft on the end there, what that does is it keeps the onion together when you're chopping it. It's actually quite useful to hold on to. So we'll take our knife, and it says slice the onion. So if you notice there are lines on the onion already, you've already got some lines on there. So the idea of those lines is you just follow them. So if you put your fingers like this, so your nails are sort of pointing in towards you, you can hold on to the onion, it's perfectly safe. And then you can cut towards your fingers like this, so that you end up with a fan shape, like this. Okay, so that sliced it a little bit like my fingers, like that. Alright, so it's sliced along like that. If you wanted to dice it, then you can run the knife along this way, just pulling it back, keeping your fingers well away. And as you do so, it will turn into little tiny chunks. And that's because you've cut one way, you've cut across, and you've also cut this way as well. Alright, if you can't see that, we're just going a little bit closer so that you can see. So we've gone one way, so it's fanned out, and now I'm going to go like this. So I'm going straight down, and that's that. Just watch out for your thumb. The most common accident, if I go straight down from the top, I'll show you better. Yeah, so what normally happens is people pull their knife back like this, and you can see your thumb is here, and that's where you hurt your thumb. So watch out for your thumb when you're using a sharp knife. Best thing to do is tuck in your fingers like this. There we go. Great, once you've done that, make sure all your brown bits are away so that you don't have any of those. And you've got some onion there, that's plenty. So we slice the onion, we're going to mix the cheese and onion together in a bowl. So I have a bowl here, so I'm going to pop that in. In it goes. Take that out, just make sure there's no bits in there that you don't want. Put the cheese in, so I did say I had a bit too much, so I'm going to leave some in there. That's it. So, grate the cheese, slice the onion, mix the cheese and onion together in a bowl. So there it is, mixed in, that's fine. So that's our filling and that's done. Right, the next part, I'm going to show you how to make the pastry. Alright, so, okay, welcome back. I'm going to show you how to use some flour and some butter and a little bit of water to make some pastry. So first things first, flour goes in, then I want to put my butter in. You can break that up with a knife first if you like. Then use your fingertips to rub in the flour and the butter. So the idea is you're coating the butter with some flour each time. So to begin with, you'll have some big chunks so you can pull them apart, that's absolutely fine. But as you start to break them down, you should be using your thumbs across your fingertips like that. So you're going to go in, grab some, pick it up, and run your fingers across like that. So you're sort of smushing the flour, if you like, into the butter. And the idea for that is you're trying to make a sort of crumble base, if you like. This technique is called rubbing in. So just grab it, twist. So the technique is straight down, twist, and run across like that. I'm quite speedy. I've been doing this for some time. Not today, I mean, I've been doing this for years. So just like that. And your hands go in and out until eventually there are no lumps. The idea with this is you can rub it on the table or give it a bang or a tap, and you shouldn't have any lumps of butter. Here's a big chunk, so that's no good. You should end up with something that looks like sand. That is the plan. So let's see if we can do that. I'll come back to you in a minute when it's all been rubbed in. Right, so this has now been rubbed in. I've got something that resembles sand. You can see it's nice and flaky if I just run it there. And if I shake it around, grab some of these, they're actually not fatty lumps, it's just lumps of butter and flour, so that's perfect. Right, I need to turn this into pastry now, because at the minute this is crumble. This is quite an art, and actually, hopefully, I'm going to make this look very simple, but it can be quite difficult. My advice to you is cold water at tiny bits at a time. Don't put too much. So we'll put in a little spoon. I'll get my hands in there and I'll wiggle it around, almost like rubbing it in again. And what you will start to see is that it starts to clump together. It's not completely clumping, so we're going to add some more, another spoon. I've only added 2 spoons so far. My next piece of advice to you is to wait. Do not put in a spoon, stir it 3 or 4 times and go, oh, it's not working, and add more water. You only need a tiny bit of water. Can you see that it's starting to make some big clumps? If I grab a piece and squeeze it, there, that's starting to form pastry. And all I've added is 2 little tiny spoons of water. you might find you need half a spoon or 1 spoon, or you know, something absolutely minute. There we go. I haven't added any more water and it's now coming together. If you add too much, it will go all sticky and wet and loose. So what you really need to do is just add a small amount of water at a time. So I'm going to add a fraction of a spoon now. I think that will be enough. We will see. Let's have a little look. It's coming together. I'm just pushing it with my hands now, pushing it together, just like that. Great. Okay. And I shouldn't have to tell you this, but obviously before you do any of this, you should wash your hands, because your hands are all over this. But I'm sure you've already done that before you started cooking, but just in case, it's too late now, so always wash your hands before you're cooking. It's the first thing we do when we come into the cookery school, so it's no different at home. Right, I have a nice ball of pastry there. I've put it on the worktop. I've cleaned the worktop before I filmed this, but make sure you have a nice clean worktop for rolling out your pastry. Don't do it on a worktop that might have other things on it. If you've been cooking a cake and you've got sugar on there, you're going to have sugar on your pastry, and that's not what you want. So, I'm going to take some flour. I've got some plain flour here, and I'm going to shake it onto my worktop. That's probably a little bit much, but that's okay. Take my rolling pin and take some flour and just rub it onto my rolling pin. Anything that's in the way, like this egg, I'm going to move it over there. There we go. Wasn't that exciting? I'll put this onto the pastry and push it down to begin with. I end up with a little flat. Do the same like that, so you have a cross. You can turn it over, press it again. So just to begin with, we're just using the rolling pin just to press it. And do that until you've got something that's almost flat, like that. Now my pastry's cracking a little bit, so that tells me that I needed a tiny bit more water perhaps. So I could put it back in the bowl and add a little bit of water. But I'm a bit stubborn, so I'm going to keep on going and see what happens. Also, I've got lots of flour here, so I'm going to take some flour away, because all this flour is drying out my pastry and it's cracking. So that is okay, but we don't want too much cracking, otherwise it will become too flaky and too soft. So roll it out into a rectangle, turn it, take your rolling pin, go the other way, turn it, that's it, like that. So you want to keep doing this until you end up with some nice thin pastry. How thin? Well, you don't want to go too thin. This is nearly the thickness of a pound coin. You probably want to be just under the thickness of a pound coin, something like that. So as it becomes thinner, you have to be more and more careful with it and roll it out carefully like that. So if you read the instructions, it says roll out the pastry into a square. That's more of a rectangle. So we're going to try and squeeze it out this way a bit. Yeah, that's not too bad, pretty good. So cut the square into quarters. Now if this is your parents' lovely worktop, I'm sure they won't want you using a knife straight onto the top. So what I'd recommend is a baking tray or a cutting mat or a chopping board. Take your tray that you're going to cook your triangles onto, take some oil, put a little bit of oil onto the tray here just to make sure that the pastry doesn't stick. If you want to, you can use baking parchment as well instead. That's absolutely fine, but we'll put a little bit of oil on. Take my fingers, or you can use a piece of kitchen towel. Oops, rub it on there. Lovely. And that will hopefully stop the pastry from sticking too much. But as I say, baking paper works well too. How to move pastry. Don't just grab it and pop it on there, because you'll end up breaking it. So take your pastry and try and roll it onto your rolling pin like this. So roll the rolling pin and use your rolling pin as a little delivery system for your pastry. So then you can put your tray underneath, the pastry's nice and safe, it's dangling, and then unroll it using your rolling pin onto there. And that's a really good way of getting pastry from A to B. If you grab it and lift it up, thinking it's a pizza, it'll just fall apart. So, I don't mind about my baking tray, so I'm going to use the knife on here, but if you've got a nice baking tray, maybe do this on a chopping board or something you don't mind about. So, you're going to cut it into some triangles or squares. We're going to add our filling in to it, which is our cheese and onion, and then we're going to seal it, and then it's going to go into the oven. So, watch this space for the next part. Using a knife very gently, or a palette knife, we're going to cut this like that, and there are 4 cheese triangles, just carefully lifted out. Now, these don't have to be perfect, you could make them a little bit rustic, that's not a problem. So the idea is we will put some filling onto each one, so we'll put a bit of filling like this, and then it will get folded over however you like. You can do it like a pasty, or you can try and do something fancy if you want to go this way and do a triangle this way. That's absolutely fine. Alright. Now to seal it, the pastry won't seal very well, so we're going to use a fork to press, and we'll need an egg to seal it. Egg is like our glue, so we'll just move this out the way. Crack an egg into a bowl, use your 2 thumbs, push into the egg, remove the centre, there we go, lovely. Put that over there. Take your fork and whisk it. I like to lift the bowl up slightly and whisk like this, just back and forwards. As you do so, if you lift the fork up in the air, it's a little bit hard to see on here, I know, but if you go around like that, you should be able to get some air into it like this. So the technique is round, up, round and up. If you can master that, then you know, people will think you're a really good chef. You go, oh, that's good. Some good egg whisking there. Also, it looks really fun as well. I like that. There, lovely. So that's whisked up beautifully. Back with our tray. Filling into each one. Don't get mad. You may have heard sort of less is more, perhaps. It's very true with this. If you were making a pizza, you can put too much on it and the pizza goes all soggy. It's the same with these. You actually don't want to have too much in there, or it leaks and it goes a bit funny. So, unfold that. Take our egg. Normally I'd use a brush for this, but for speed I'm going to use my fingers, because I know they're clean, plus I've just made the pastry with my hands, so there we go. Put a bit of egg on there, gets a bit messy this bit. Fold it over. Ooh, that one's gone a bit funny, isn't it? And then once you've got it into the shape you want, you can neaten it up a little bit if you're worried about how it looks. But it really doesn't matter how it looks, it'll taste lovely, I'm sure. Take your fork and press down, and what that does is it seals the edges, so you should end up with a little sort of pasty, if you like. If there's a bit of spare pastry, you can make your initials on the top if you want to. You can put like a little T for Timmy or something like that. It's totally up to you. There we go. And the last thing you can do is put a bit of egg on the top. And again, if you've got a brush, it's much easier than using your fingers like this. But you just want a bit of egg on the top, and that will make it nice and golden brown when it's cooked. Right, I'm going to do the same for these. I will pop it in the oven, and I'll leave it in there for about 20 minutes, and then we'll see how it turns out. Good luck, folks. Hello, welcome back. Hopefully your cheese and onion triangles have cooked beautifully, just like mine have. So let's have a little look. Ooh, lovely, lovely. Nice and golden. Using the mitts to take it out. Much safer to use an oven mitt than a tea towel. A tea towel can be wet, and when you when you hold on to a hot tray, that moisture can turn to steam and it can burn your fingers. So always use a mitt. It's much safer. Right, let's have a look at these. Lovely. Can you tell me what number I'm looking for on my handy dandy machine here? I've paused there for a second. What number is it? 17? No, I don't think that's cooked. What number am I looking for? Do you remember? Well, the answer is above 75, and these are a whopping 96, so I can tell you they're definitely cooked. And looking at them by eye, you can also see that they're a nice golden brown. A little bit of cheese has leaked out there, but that's okay, it's a non-stick tray, so that will come off nicely. Leave these to cool, don't eat them straight away. The middle will be like molten lava, so you want to leave them for a good 10-15 minutes. If you have a cooling rack, you can pop it onto a cooling rack and let them cool for a little while. Once they're cooler, you can temperature probe them again if you have one of these. If you don't have one of these, that's fine. Just look for the tops to have turned golden brown and for the pastry to be cooked. Should be nice and crispy and crunchy rather than soft and doughy. Anyway, enjoy. Next week I will post another video and we can do a bit more cooking together. I hope you enjoyed that. Have a look at the Microsoft Teams. All the recipes are there, so you'll see what you need for next week. And happy cooking. Enjoy. Bye for now.